what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for checking out the video and welcome to Keeping It Real Fishing. So today we're going to be taking a look at a very interesting product. These are the kind of things that really pique my interest and goes along with the Keeping It Real philosophy is innovation, new and innovative products in the fishing industry. We know how much stuff is out there, but we also know that there's a lot of people just looking for our dollars, and we are told a lot of things without there necessarily being truth behind it. I was very intrigued when I saw this come on the market. This came out in 2016, and I purchased this in 2018. Now, if you're looking at the timing of the video, you can see this is uploaded in 2020. We're going to be jumping around a little bit here, guys. Normally, when I get a product, regardless of what it is, line, a reel, a lure, whatever, I throw it on the tabletop, examine it, try to show you what I can see, kind of ask some questions and surmise how it might play out, and then revisit it and come back and talk about it after having fished it for a while. This one, I never did that originally, so as of right now, I've actually fished this for over a season. I actually have two years on it, but not a full 2 years of fishing because of the winters up here in the Northeast. But I have probably effectively about a year and a half actually fishing this product. So you're going to see that we're going to jump around a little bit in this video as we're talking about it. But I wanted to bring it here first at the tabletop to let you see what it looks like in a new condition. And then we're going to look at it, of course, later on the reels and see the main claim here is, does in fact this line fade? But let's take a close look here, starting at the tabletop. All right, everybody, so you can see I have it in 2-pound tests. I got it in 60 and 40, and I now have it on a number of my my reels. And so let's just talk about this claim here. First of all, one of the things, if you guys have fished for any length of time, you know braid has been around for, I don't even know, how long's braid been out for now? 15? No, probably more than that, 20 some odd years. I remember spider wire being some of the first braid that I was aware of. So there's been a lot of evolutions in braid, but at the end of the day, they're kind of evolutions and not revolutions. This claim is truly revolutionary because every braid that you've ever bought will fade. Some of them, I know from my own experience, I've fished probably a dozen to 15 various braids from different manufacturers. I've had some braids, some really bad ones, they fade, like they bleeded out in that first trip. They've turned my my fishing gloves green. They turned the reel green. It's embarrassing actually how fast the dye has come out of some braids. Others have lasted quite a bit. They've lost it very slowly and progressively. Now let me just stop right here because I know some of you are probably saying, dude, I don't care about the fade. Like, my main concerns are strength and fraying. Okay, I understand. That's the bulk of what we're concerned about. I get it, guys. We could just take a magic marker and you could always just kind of color in that last working section of line. You could always take the old line and flip it around, right, and reel it onto another reel so that the old line is at the bottom, your new line's at top. I think most of us are aware of the tricks, but we're focusing on the fade characteristic because that's exactly what this is claiming to do. It's not claiming anything else. It's not claiming to be any stronger or anything else, but it's claiming specifically that it will not fade. So understand as I'm focusing on that throughout the video, of course, that's the reason why we're going to be harping on it. So guys, the no fade braid, let me just flip it around the back here real quick, and I'm just going to read this off, or you could just read it along with me, because this is the only place where they really allude to how they're allegedly doing this trick here. It says unlike traditional braids that put on the color as a coating, our color fast technology uses a pre-dyeing technique that makes the color a part of the line. Okay, so we're going to see if that holds up to be true. And again, guys, like I said, I already kind of know the answer because I've been fishing this for a while. And I'll just give you a little cheat, a little go-ahead. This stuff is not bullshit. All right, I'm going to talk to you more about it in the clips, the forthcoming clips, and I'm going to show you how this stuff ages or doesn't age that much. But just know that right off the bat, for the most part, this claim is true. Let's just take a look at it here, guys. I'm going to try to focus in that spot for you. See if we can get it nice and close. There we go. So to look at it, it's not going to look a whole lot different than any other braid. It feels, if we take some out here, in hand, here we go. In hand, you could feel like it has a coating on it, even though they say they dye it individually. It has that stiffness to it, you know, such that if you bend it, it'll hold the shape, versus completely uncoated lines are very, very limber. But this one obviously has some kind of coating on it because it will kind of have a little bit of memory to it there. Not true memory, just a little bit, you know, it'll form that shape. It feels very, very slick. And one of the things that they say is that if you run it between your fingers, no color will come off. And let's just do that here. I'm going to do it again later in the video. Like I said, we're going to be rolling clips from various times. So let me do it here right for you. I'm going to really bear down on this thing. Let me see here. You can probably hear that. Can you hear that? Okay, hope you could hear that. I know we got out of focus there for a minute, but fingernails, nada. So, and I knew that to be the case, guys. Like I said, I keep reiterating it. I've been fishing this for a while. So this stuff is not going to come off in your hand. And that's a very positive sign right there that there's some legitimacy behind this claim here. But that's pretty much all I want to show you here at the tabletop, guys. Just to give you the once over and just to introduce it. Now, let's roll into the next clip. Here's where we're going. Again, right now, this is April of 2020. I'm going to roll back in time to December of 2018. And in the clip that you're about to see, I'd been fishing the line for, I forget exactly how long. I think I had it on for about a month. I had it out on maybe like 3 or 4 trips. And I put it specifically and purposefully on one of my reels that I use a lot. Some of you guys may recognize it. It's a reel that I highlight in a lot of my my videos. It's my Zillion. And so I put it on there purposely because I want to get maximum work from this line. Not a rod and reel I use sparingly, but one that I use all the time. And that's what I have it on. So let's cut to that clip now. This is after having it on for, I don't know, a couple trips there. It's probably going to be, I can't even know. I mean, certainly hundreds and hundreds of casts, somewhere between 500 and 1,000 casts, maybe a little bit more. And I'm going to share some thoughts on it right there. Hey, what's up, everybody? Had to check in real quick. It's the end of the season, and actually where I'm at is half covered in ice. But I've had the opportunity to get the Vicious No Fade braid out already on 4 separate trips. And I just want to tell you, because nothing's going to change here, this stuff doesn't fade. Check it out. Come on, camera. You are my friend. There we go. Yeah, guys, like right now the line is wet. I've been fishing it, and if I put it between my fingernails, and I'm like nail to nail, like rubbing. I could feel those fibers between my nails, and there's not even like a hint of green. So, and that makes sense too, because as a manufacturer is touting, it's not that it's dyed. You can only dye something so well. Anything that's dyed could eventually be worn out. But if it's actually molecularly, you know, the composition of the fiber is green, it's a green pigment. You know, it's almost like cotton. You know, cotton, you're just putting that dye into an organic, you know, a natural-based fiber, versus if you have something that's like nylon or rayon, polyester, whatever, like that's not going to come out. It is, you know, the chemical composition of that fiber is that color, and that's exactly what this line appears to be. So I'm going to fish it, you know, well, the season's about to wrap up. That's why I wanted to throw in the camera real quick, and I'm going to continue testing this out into the spring. What I'm curious to see now, because the fade thing seems to be totally legit, and that's the real marketing of it, and that's what you're paying for, because obviously this is not cheap. But my next area of intrigue is to see if it frays easily or not, if I don't know, if I have any particular issue with knots or, you know, whatever. Just test it out. I've run a lot of braids in the years. Over the past, I don't know, 6-7 years, I've probably been through about a dozen, maybe 15 different types from different manufacturers. So all in all, so far seems pretty good, but just cool, you know, guys, like we were saying at the tabletop, just something different, you know, true innovation. Not that it's going to change your outcome on the water, but at least maybe for those of you guys who do flip up your braid just because it gets so beat looking and so worn and faded, you know, this stuff here, I suspect I could probably make this review 2 or 3 years long and come back to this and it'll still look the same. So anyway guys, just wanted to give you some quick input here at the end of the season. Check back in with you, or the next you see me in a few seconds is going to be next year, and we'll take one last look at the Vicious and see how it's been performing. Hey, what's going on everybody? And we're back, just like that. So here we are, Vicious no fade braid, same reel, same line, but check this out, this is not readily apparent. We're in spring, but not spring of 2019. We are in spring of 2020. And the clip you just saw, that was winter of 2018. So I just never followed up on it last year, and then it got to be a long-term test, and I said, let's really work this stuff out and see if this no fade thing is true. So I have to kind of backtrack on that statement there, and this is the benefits of a real long-term test, is sometimes you can see the things that you can't see in a couple outings or even a couple months. So we're going to examine here the no fade braid. I'm going to take you down here. I'd like to take a seat and give you a close look at some stuff and share my observations on this line. Alright everybody, so let's talk about it here. So, the Vicious no fade braid. Here's the deal, and I'm actually going to grab one more camera because I want to show you something. I guess the most appropriate way to describe the line is a very, very, very slow fade. Now let me just get one thing out of the way right here, because I know for a lot of people, you're probably like, dude, I don't care about fading. If it takes that long, I don't care. But the only reason I'm really harping on this is the manufacturer's claim, right? It doesn't claim to be any stronger. It doesn't claim to be any more abrasion resistant. It doesn't claim anything unique aside from its inability to fade. So I'm going to really, you know, harp on that point, and that's why. If fading is not important to you, you can move on. Or I would suggest staying around though, because I would like to talk to you about the other properties of the line, namely its strength, slickness, fraying or lack thereof, smoothness through the guides, that kind of stuff. So, you know, even if you don't care if it fades, it is a good line, and I'll get to those other talking points in just a moment. But let's get the fade thing out of the way first. Here's what is interesting. I'm going to show you two things right now, guys. So let's go to this camera. What I'm going to do is I'm going to strip off. I have some leader on top of there, so I'm going to strip off the leader so you can look straight at the line. Now this is the 40 pound. I have this in 40, and I'm looking at my other rods right there. I do like the line so much that I put on a number on my other rods. So it's a really good line, guys, but it will eventually fade a little bit. So let me show you. See if we can hold this here. Okay, ready? And 3, 2, 1. Okay, excuse the the junk everywhere in the canoe. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at after a year and a half of heavy usage on a combo that I use probably more than any of my other combos. Thousands and thousands of casts. I leave my rod in the car all the time, so this stuff has gotten so hot. It's gotten lots of UV light, and it looks pretty good, right? And what we want to do is just compare it to the reference, which is, this is the spool. So this is 40 pound, that's what's on there. And I had a little bit left, and I left it on there a year and a half ago when I spooled it. So there we go. This is what I'm trying to show you guys. It does fade a little tiny bit. You can see that's new, and that's after a year and a half of usage. Still looks really green. A hell of a lot more green than all my other lines that, you know, just bleed out kind of normally. But the no fade thing, it's not that it's debunked, but just know that it's a very slow fade. Like I said, I have this on some of my other combos. Let me show you guys those as well, because I've had it on them, some of them since last year and some since the beginning of this year. And I think that's pretty telling. You know, after having used it, I decided to put it on a number of my other rigs here. I have it on my Daiwa, my SV 103. It's kind of like a zillion there. That's also in 40. You can see that's doing very well. Let's make sure it's focused. It wants to focus on my face. There we go. I also have it on my Daiwa Ryoga. That is, I think that one is 60. Now you notice that looks particularly dark. I found an interesting phenomenon to this line. Even this line that I have here on my original Zillion, this one here, the one that's been being tested the longest time, if I make a cast and I get this wet, guess what?
it resets. I gotta show you guys this. I'll do it in just a second. But that's kind of the interesting point, is that even though it does get a little bit lighter, in practice, the second you use it, it goes back to that same deep dark green color. I'm just showing you guys the other rigs here. This one has 60 on it. That's a Lew's BB1 Pro. I've been using that a lot, and I can't see anything going on there. And then lastly, I have it on one more. I do like it. It's good stuff. It's a little messy there. I have it on my Tatula HD. Okay. All right, guys, so let me tell you a little bit about those other properties of the line. You know, guys, I've used, I think I said this in the last clip, back in winter, like 12, 15 lines. I don't know exactly, but I've used a lot of different stuff, a lot of different products from different manufacturers. And I found very few things that I just really, almost nothing that I was like, oh, this is garbage. And I really haven't found anything that I'm like, this, you know, they're reinventing the wheel. I'm just going to share with you guys, I got that the Slick V2 from Power Pro, Berkeley Trilene Professional. They stopped making this, but that was one of my favorites. Berkeley Solutions. Of course, I used years ago, was it Suffix 832, the Daiwa Samurai Braid, J Braid. I mean, there's just a lot. I don't have them. Suffix Braid. I say all that. I preface everything. I'm mentioning that to you guys because as that is my reference point, having the major players in the braid market as my reference and comparing this line against them in terms of its other attributes, the slickness, the fraying, quietness through the guides, and all those things, I'd say that this line is excellent. Here's what's interesting. One of the things that they obviously are doing something different for that fading to essentially not be visible, but happening very, very, very slowly. It's really slick, like super slick. Like those Power Pro, like that Slick V2, it starts off slick, but it comes off. This one is like perpetually slick. Even the one that's been on a year and a half, it stays slick. It's like it's just got Teflon in, through, around it. And so when you're casting this, man, it is like, it rifles out, super, super quiet coming in, because not only does it have that slickness that just doesn't wear off, it's also an 8 carrier. But one word of caution though, and this is something that happened a couple times, it's never happened before, you have to be like militant with tying your knots if you're running a leader. Right? If you're not running a leader, don't worry about this, but I run a leader on almost all my setups, braid to some kind of line, copoly or fluoro. I never really had that braid to leader connection fail on me. Like I can probably count on one hand how many times that's happened in like the past 5 years. That's happened like 2 or 3 times, more than that, probably like 4 or 5 times in the past year and a half. And I think in every instance, it was me not tying my knot perfectly. I tie the Alberto knot for all my adjoining lines. And I think it's 2 things. One is the fact that this line stays slick. All my other lines, when I do my adjoining knot, I'll take my nail and I'll really rub that end that I'm about to use to tie the knot. I'll really rub it raw and take all the coating off as best I can. It just, has more friction. It's just a little bit more rough. This one, there's nothing to rub off, right? And even after it's old, it's still slick. And so I have had a couple more instances than I can ever remember of my leader separating. And they didn't just happen haphazardly. It's like I had like a bird's nest mid-cast and the lure was like a heavy bait was sailing. And normally my line would snap, but here it was actually breaking at that knot. I don't consider that to be any way a fault of the line. I think that slickness is actually a very good thing, but just if you tie those adjoining knots, be very, very critical with, how you cinch them down and just a number of wraps, and just do a good job. 98% of the time, like I said, I use them constantly, I don't have a problem. But I've just had a few more failures than I've ever been used to, so I wanted to mention that. Let's talk fraying. Let's talk fraying, guys. Again, the slickness, coming back to that slickness, I believe, alleviates a lot of the fraying. I have been running this over rocks with my HUDs and things that I've been bottom bouncing with my big swim baits. And other lines, I get a little bit of fraying, and I get a tiny, tiny, tiny bit here, but I think, again, it comes down to the fact that it's so slippery and slick that when it is rubbing against a rock or it's coming over branches, my one rig, where is it? This one here, I kind of leave my, I leave a Kitech Easy Shiner on there like perpetually, and I'm always casting it into timber and just working it through like rough cover, and it looks perfect, like nothing, like it's never been worn before. There's no fraying on it whatsoever, and I think that's attributable to just the sheer slickness of the line. It goes over things that's so slippery that there's nothing to kind of get caught on all those little edges, where you know, those little microscopic edges of rocks and timber, and that thing, it just slides over it. So fraying, excellent. Strength. Now this is a topic that, you know, I know if you kind of quantitatively test it, I see all these things on YouTube where people actually set up devices to test strength of line, breaking points. They have machines to actually measure it, you know, to assign a number to it. I don't have any of that, guys. This is very, you know, layperson, just, you know, testing in the field and just looking for basic, you know, qualities of the line. I haven't had any issues. I've gotten stuck on a number of things where I've been snagged and I've laid into it. My thing is, of all these various braids I've used over the years, I know some people swear like one braid is stronger than the other. I haven't really seen that. I mean, braids to me, of the given pound test, like 40 to 40 and 65 to 65, they're strong, man. They're really, really damn strong. And I think the only failures that really happen are maybe nicks in the line that people aren't aware of. But these lines, just an outright failure is incredibly rare, and I haven't experienced that on almost any of my other lines, and I certainly haven't experienced it here on the Vicious No Fade braid. So so I guess that's it, guys. I know this video is going a long time, but I just wanted to give you a thorough review on the, may as well keep showing you it here rather than just you looking at me, on the Vicious No Fade braid. Oh, and let me show you that one thing. Remember how I said that the line will reset in color, which effectively makes it like, you know, the color lasts for, it does make it a no fade braid, right? Because, well, let me just show you. I'm going to tie something on here. We're going to cast it out, and in real time, I'll show you what this looks like. We're going to cast out a Keeping It Real fishing perch. All right, guys, so here we go. I got a little bit of leader on there. That's going to be evacuated with the cast, of course. So there's the 40 pounds, and here it is in its new state, and you see the difference in color. But like I said, this, now what's happening is obviously the line is absorbing water. That's what's making it darker. But, you know, it is what it is. That happens to most braids. Let me give it a cast to show you how it looks different. Watch us end up getting a strike here. I'm just staring at the viewfinder. Okay guys, so I just took it in, and let me get this leader out of the way so you can get a clean look. The line is now wet. You can probably see already that it's darker, and now they're the same. So in effect, it is no fade braid, because the little fade that does occur is essentially eliminated as soon as the line gets wet. A year and a half later, still in effect the same color. Okay guys, so let's just wrap up the Vicious No Fade braid. I think it's an exciting product, and I really do give it 2 thumbs up. I found no faults with it. It does make a claim, which is rather revolutionary, for the line to never change color, which I know is not important to a lot of people. A lot of us just use that marker and we color in that last working section of the line. But isn't it cool? And this really has me thinking now, because every other manufacturer, you have to deal with line that fades out to some degree. And some of the lines that I've gotten over the years have been, pun intended, vicious. Like they literally will fade out in the first day, and my gloves turn green, and the dye from the line just goes on my reel. And that, to me, that's like inexcusable. You're paying a lot of money. It doesn't affect performance, but it's like, why even color it to begin with? Wouldn't it be cool, now that we know that it can be done? This isn't magic, right? They figured it out. Wouldn't it be cool if every line you bought, your Power Pro, your Suffix, your Sunline, your any brand, employed the same technology, and you knew when you got line that it was going to look green, you wouldn't have to recolor it, and it would just look good. for year over year over year. And now we know that it can be done, that this technology exists. I assume it's patent protected. I don't know if it's something that they're going to share, if they're going to kind of lease it out. But at least we know it's out there. And that's why I put it on so many of my other rods, because I was like, you know, seeing no other fault of the line, having used it for a while, why am I going to consciously put on a line that is going to change color when I know that there's a product that has all other quality attributes to it? It's strong, it's slick, it's quiet, everything about it is right in line with all my other proven braids, except it's not going to change color. Now, of course, you do pay a premium for that. The line is more expensive than your other lines, and I'll say it one more time. I know for a lot of you, you could just care less and you're going to save some money because the color isn't important. But for me, I think it's a pretty interesting product. And like we said, guys, it does fade slowly, but it's so slow that it's imperceivable to the eye. And listen, if I didn't have this spool, if I just put it all on that one reel, I wouldn't know. It was only because I had a little bit left on the spool and I checked it out a couple weeks ago and I said, wait a minute, it is actually fading ever so slightly. But then I thought my mind was playing tricks with me, because when I'd be fishing it, I was like, no, it's not fading. That thing is super dark green, like we showed you in the water. When you get it wet and it reabsorbs, or it absorbs some water, it goes back to that kind of inky dark green. So anyway, guys, I think it's a fantastic product. I'm glad it exists. I always like innovation and advancement in fishing products. It's exciting to me, and I think it's just good for everybody. And I suspect as the years go on, because this does exist, I think 5-10 years down the line, all lines are going to be like this, hopefully, and no more fading braid regardless of what brand you buy. But for the time being, it's from Vicious. I really like it, and yeah, if you guys are interested, give it a try. If you have any question on the line, feel free, guys, to leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. All right, guys, tight lines, and see you next time.